we're going to get things started. Before we get to your images, let's start with one that's kind of basic but kind of fun at the same time. We're going to take this image and do something with it. And I don't know, what do you think? I think it needs a more dramatic cloudscape to make this thing work. This is actually, I'm going to mute you guys temporarily. You have the chat window. Please take a look at that if you need it. You want to type in a question. I will unmute. I'll take questions in between each one, but you guys know you can break in at any time. Just type it in the message window and I will know to do that. So I'm going to mute you all, and you can unmute yourself. All right. So we have this image. And how did my background get black? That's weird. I'm going to change that to dark gray. Again, if you weren't familiar with this thing, for your interface, this area around your images in the viewing area, if you control or right-click this, you get to see what color you want that to be. I think the default is the medium gray. I think that's the default color. But if you want to see it, if you think you can see it better with a black, then you have that option just by control-clicking in the gray, and you can change that to black. But the downside of the black is it sometimes makes your image look like it has a little more pop than it really does. So, okay, let's go right in the develop module, and we look at the histogram, and it's all the way across. I might have done, no, I did no editing to this. This is actually right out of the camera, a bright sunny day, and if we take a look, yeah, this is a Sony shot with the A7R III. I have no complaints about it, except I think the sky's a little bit eh. So what we're going to do is take another sky, and I just happen to have one right here. So I'm going to select both of these, 1, 2, just hold down Command, and go to Photo, Edit In, and we're going to do Open as Layers, not Edit in Photoshop. If we did that, it would just open them up as two separate images. But I want them to just come into the same file to make it a little easier. So I don't know why the crop tool was on. Apparently that was the last time I used it. And what did I do wrong? Oh, I know what I did wrong. I was only looking at them in here. So I still screwed it up. So I'll just Command E again just on this one. And I was trying to have them come up in the same, and they came in two separate files, but it doesn't really matter. So we could do a sky replacement, but I can tell you right off that Photoshop's going to have a fit trying to replace this sky. I'm going to Command J the background to give us a raw image. Let's just take a look at it. And where are my tools? Oh, they're off on the other screen. Let me bring them back. And let's fill in this screen a little bit more. If we try to do a sky replacement here, I just want you to see how Photoshop sometimes does not do a great job with it. Okay, so it's going to use this default sky. That's one of my images anyway. Let's see what it does when it catches up. Actually, it doesn't look terrible there. But here is all of the sky replacement group is what they call it. And if we zoom in, especially on some of the edges, you might see some sky coming through. And it's looking like it's trying to make a liar out of me because I can't see that happening. Let's take a look for sure. If we click on under this sky replacement group are the masks and some fading filters. So let's click on this with Alt, and that shows us, okay, so you can see it's not pure black and white. You can see that it's actually got some holes in it. So what technically is going on here, it's actually letting a little bit of sky in through here because the mask isn't 100% black. Conversely, you can see gray in the sky, which is letting some of the blue behind it come through. So how do we fix that? Well, again, the mask is a layer of its own. And what we can do is do a layers adjustment or levels adjustment right to this. So levels is, if you go to image adjustments, levels is Command L. The only one in Photoshop that's really weird is curves is Command M. But Command L. and we get the levels. And this is showing the background or the mask here. And you would think it would be black and white, but it's not. There's a lot of gradations in here. So if I want that sky to be pure and let the new sky through, I have to get the right slider and drag it way over. Come on, catch up. There we go. Now look at the sky. Yeah, you see how dark it was. And conversely, let's bring over from the left to make sure all the areas that are black should be black. If we want to make sure that we can move the center over to the left, which will lighten up the midtones a little bit. And let's zoom out of that, which is Command 0. And it's still not perfect. You can see if we look in here, some of this is not letting the sky through 100%, but I don't know if there's something in front of that. But if we now click on the image itself, okay, that's not too bad. You don't really notice it. Underneath here, however, there's this edge lighting group, which has got this thing. And if we, again, Alt-click, it's doing, I'm not sure what the heck it's doing here, honestly. But if we turn it on and off, you see how it is shading the image? It's like letting light around. I'm not sure that I like that. You see what's happening there? You see how it's getting light? So what would my suggestion be? I would say do this, and we need to add some saturation into the masks themselves. So let's go to our, let's see, what are we going to use? Let's come right up on the top, and let's add a hue saturation adjustment level here. And I'm going to bring the saturation up. Now, I'm not even going to look at the sky. The sky is actually okay. Let's bring up the saturation. And you see how we're getting that kind of golden, warm brown color of the masts. And that looks much better, but now we've made the sky way too dark. But remember, again, if we come down here, we've got a sky on the layer below. It's actually the mask that we just were playing with this one. But what we're going to do is hold down the Alt key and drag this sky up to our hue saturation layer, which is right there now, and we need to invert it, which is Command I. And that got really weird. Why? Because I dragged it on the wrong layer. That's why. I need to drag it up to here. Up to there. Okay. That's our hue saturation. Now what it's doing is it's adding the saturation to the sky, not the mast. So now I have to click on this mask, and we're going to use Command I, which will invert the mask, and look at the difference. So now you can see we've got our old sky, but we've got the masks in there. In fact, I want to even make it a little more saturated. Let's go more. That's good. And I think I like that. Now, with the sky, we have this sky layer here. I can move it around. I can Command T that, which will allow me to just move the sky around, or you can see the sky is bigger than the thing. I can flip it. I can rotate it. Let's see. Where's a nicer piece of sky for this thing? Oh, how about that? I think I like that better. The sky is obviously bigger resolution than the mast shot itself. Yeah, I think I like that a lot better. So that's the beauty of bringing in your own image into Photoshop for doing sky replacement, and also taking control over these masks because they're less than perfect. And I always find myself going into the mask it produces, like this one, and running a levels adjustment on it to actually really make it black and white. And we got a nice shot. So I'm gonna actually save that. I like this new sky. And we can tab, this is saving. While it's saving, we're gonna tab back over to Lightroom, and we'll see the new one coming in. And let's treat this as an hors d'oeuvre also. I'm going to go grab one of the other images. Gloria, you ready for this? Okay, so Gloria sent this image. Gloria, is this by chance Trout Lake? No? Okay.
This is New Zealand.
Oh, okay. There's a lake in Colorado that has this same kind of spit with a tree on the point like that. That's why it looks familiar. All right, so Gloria sent an edit that she sent me as a JPEG, and she ended up with this. And here's one of the dangers of a JPEG because you can see, oh, this is low res. I see it. That's why it's looking bad. So you sent me a 1920 by 1080. What? Oh, I guess you're done. Thank you. We got that. Okay. Yeah. It's 19 by 20. Oh, I see. Said it couldn't. That's weird. Lightroom was giving me a warning that that image could not be saved as a PSD file. It had to be saved as a PSB file because we made that shot with the masks over 2 gigabytes with all the edits we did, which was totally unnecessary. So this was the edit you came up with. And you can see with a JPEG, one of the problems is you can see the banding in the sky. So it just lost a lot of its tonal range. But you would like us to edit this, right?
I would.
Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Let's see, what did she shoot this with? This is a Sony shot with a Sony A7R4, I guess, huh? Wait, there isn't an A7R4, is there? Isn't it is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought they skipped 4 and went to 5. Little sidebar.
That was a 5. Wasn't it a 5?
Well, yeah, I think. Well, it says 7R M4,
Oh.
which I thought I. By the way, China and Japan 4 is a unlucky number. In fact, I just realized flying back that there are no row 4s, there are no row 9s, which I can't figure out, and 13 I knew about. The reason for 4 in Japan and China is that the ideogram for it in both languages, as well as the pronunciation of the word, is very similar to the word for death. So 4 is China and Japan's 13. Anyway, I digress. So I'm going to create a virtual copy of Gloria's shot here, Command apostrophe, so we have one we can bounce back to. And let's take a look. Histogram-wise, this is this sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
This is a sunset shot. Okay. Let's see what we can do. Let's do some of the basics. I'm just going to start bringing up the shadows all the way and bring the highlights all the way down and then bring the exposure up. All right, so we've got some basic big things to do. Let's add some texture. I'm going to leave clarity for now, but I am going to add a little bit of dehaze. And it needs a lot of vibrance and saturation. That's starting to bring things back, but this is going to have to be edited in sections. There's a lot of sky, but let's take a look and see if the landscape selection in Lightroom's masking panel is going to be able to detect everything. So we got sky, all right, I'll buy that. Mountains, that's pretty good. Vegetation, okay. Water. Natural ground, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So these 4 are worthwhile. So let's go ahead and create those 4 masks just to save us the trouble. And let's start with the sky. So what does the sky need? We need to bring the brightness down, and it's kind of purple. It might have been, but I'm not sure what the sunset...
It wasn't that purple.
All right, I'm going to take the sky, since this is sunset, I'm going to take it more to the yellow. And let's bring up the saturation a bit more. And I think we might have to do a gradient on this. So let's get an M for our gradient tool. And I'm going to come down, and I don't want it to come all the way down. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to ask the software to intersect this with the sky. So that means I only want the gradient with the sky. If it has mountains there, please take it out, and it does a nice job. So let's bring down the exposure here. Looking at this also, Gloria, I see too much sky.
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring it way down, something like that. And let's leave it there for now. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the colors were. Let's take a look at what else it came up with. Mountains. Mountains is interesting, but it missed in between, which is a problem. Let's, just out of curiosity, let's see if the software sees a subject. I was hoping for this tree. And look what it picked up as the subject. That little spit here and the tip of this mountain. So that is a complete waste of time. Let's get rid of that. I think this mountain is going to give us a little trouble, but let's go ahead and choose mountains and see if we can add to it. Let's see if we can add with a brush. And I've got to make sure auto mask is on because I have to get in between here. And let's see. Yeah, it's going to fail there. We're going to have to try to fix the tree separately. But we need to get in there because if we don't edit that, it's going to be a mess. Yeah, even back in here. Let's see if the tree can put up with what our edit is. Let's bring up the exposure. Oh, that's not too shabby. And we're going to need to add some dehaze to get through this all the way back there. So let's go to dehaze, and it went way too blue, so we need to add some yellow to it to bring that back. And what do you think? How do you think where we're going so far, Gloria? What do you think?
Yeah, when I was doing it myself, you know, I actually divided up the hills, which was probably a mistake, but you know, the colors look relatively good as far as the one on the left, and in the back it was a gray, and it's white with snow on there.
Okay. Well, we would expect that to happen. Over here has gone a little bit too blue, I think. So let's hit K and just get into here. We'll come through here a bit. I'm not going to take it all the way over because I do want it to fade in a little bit. Let's make that a little more yellow to take that. That looks better. I'm actually going to darken that a little bit, or maybe add a little bit of contrast. I think that might be a way. Now, this is kind of a focal point, this tree and this stuff right here. So let's try to deal with that separately. I'm going to hit K to give us a brush. And did AutoMask turn off? It's just having trouble distinguishing the tones. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to just try to click on the foliage. That's, all right, you know what? The heck with it. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to let it go all over the place and then subtract the sky and see if we can make it work with that. There's also one over here. So let me just subtract the sky here from this mess that we've got and see if it's going to, yeah, it's okay. Let's see if we can do something with this. Let's bring the exposure up. We're going to have to go in and subtract some of the background again. This is going to be tough. And then the shadows. Wow, this is really dark. So let's try subtract again. We're going to have to zoom in. So let's go to 50% over here and see if we can get rid of some of this. So let's do it with a brush. Let's make the brush a little smaller, and let's come in around the edges here and see if we can get rid of some of the worst offenders. And maybe we can make this work. So I'm just single clicking rather than dragging, and I think we might get something acceptable here. This was tough lighting. You got a backlit tree at sunset. But I think that is helping. What do you think? Helping a bit?
The last time you took a eye drop, you know, a dropper, and put it in between, like in between the leaves.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just single clicking with the auto mask on. I'm just going in there. I can make it even tinier, and that's not terrible. In fact, while we're here, let's hit K again, and let's see if we can do something with these trunks. Let's see if we can just bring them up a little bit. Let's see if it's going to matter. If there's anything there, I guess we should. Yeah, there's numbers there. So let's bring up the exposure of that. That's not terrible. In fact, while we're at it, since it's live, we can just add. Oh, it wasn't live anymore. Okay, I got to bring it up manually. Let's bring that up. And that's not terrible. All right, let's deal with the sky. The water, rather. Where did our water go? Mountains, vegetation, water. Let's see. We're going to need some saturation in the water. Which color does it need to be? Well, the sky is yellow. So I think the water needs to be yellow. What do you think of that?
Yes, yes.
And let's add some little dehaze to it to separate out the ripples. And what do you think about the distant mountains? Are they a little too blue for you?
A little bit.
Let's see if we can do something with these. Really, Lightroom is not liking the separation, so I'm going to have to minus through here manually. So if we, the thing about them being a different color is it does separate them. Let's see if we make them, now if we make them yellow, it takes away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they need to stay blue. Maybe we can just take down the saturation a bit and then add some clarity, maybe a little dehaze to just make them a little darker. No, I don't like that. Let's do it with add some exposure and some contrast and bring the blacks down. Maybe something like that. Now I see a spot. Is that on my screen right here? You see it right here?
Oh, it's probably on my camera.
Let's see. Yes, if we go to Q, of course the keyboard shortcut for show me the spots is Q. And visualize the spots is A. So right here we have this visualize spots thing. And, oh, Gloria. Oh.
Terrible. Oh, my God.
Oh, look at this. So we're going to just use the Band-Aid for this. And we're going to have to go over each of these spots. Oh, people have entered the waiting room. Let me let the late joiners in. Okay. There we go. They're joining. Okay. We'll go back to Gloria's spot-filled image. I got to give you a hard I got to give you a hard time because there's many spots here. Look at them.
There are.
What did you do? Were you changing lenses out in the field or something?
Because this one, I don't think it just was. I had to switch cameras. I have a 5 and a 4.
Okay.
I had to switch cameras because the other, I know the 5 was good, but 5 wasn't working correctly.
Well,
for some reason.
when you have
might have been operator error.
okay, usually when you have this many spots, it's because you changed the lens outside and it was a little windy or you didn't hold the camera down. Okay, they're gone. Didn't mean to make fun of you in public, but yeah, kind of did.
That's okay.
Kind of did too. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. They're gone. They're gone. So what the other thing I would do for this is obviously there's nothing going on up here. So let's get rid of it. Let's bring this down.
Yeah, and I brought it in from the right-hand side also.
The right or the left?
And the left.
Okay. I would bring it in from here. The right, here's the thing about the right though. This thing doesn't bother me. And this tree is very important. And if we bring this in from the right, it's going to put it too far to the left, too far to the right of the image.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I would stay here. And I'm going to try a little trick here. Let's hit enter on this. And let's go down to transform and change the aspect ratio a little bit. Let's make these mountains a little taller. You think is that cheating? No, if you had a different kind of lens, it really wouldn't. So let's bring that down. Let me bring the scale down a little bit so we can see the whole thing. And let's put it back in the picture. Hold on. Come on, X offset. It's running very slow for some reason. And then Y, let's bring you down. Come on. Is this a really big image or something?
As far as pixel, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's do that, and now let's recrop it to this. And what we just did was made it a little taller and thinner. And I think you got something you can work with here now. And let's add a little vignette. Under vignette, let's do our standard. I still might want to if I were you, I still might want to do something with the sky. Let's try something. Let's do a linear gradient again and come up across the sky this way. And once more, we're going to intersect this gradient with the sky so that we only get it. And I think I would want some blue in there. So let's add some blue into that Oh, what do you think?
Yeah, there was some blue.
Okay, so we got some blue back. All right. And we did our vignette already, so I think I would be done with this at this point. Let's go to full screen and look at this is the raw file that you sent me. And we took it from there. From there. Come on, computer. Wow. Wow. What is wrong? I'll do it manually. Why is this going so slowly? I don't know if Zoom's giving me a hard time or what. There we go. Wow. Now, as I look at it full screen, and it's still trying to draw in, you can see the resolution's not there. This has got plenty of resolution in it. Give it a second. What do you think? What else would you do with that?
You know, it's too light behind the tree in the sky.
Actually, let's try something. Let's hit K for everybody. Let's do a little bit of light painting in here. So I'm going to just kind of come in through here, through there, up through there. And in part of the tree, we're going to make believe that there's some light coming through here. And let's just darken this part, these parts up. And if we do that, that's too much. Something like that, where you have to get rid of these halos. So we got to click in the light spots as well. But actually, that's not terrible. How about if we do that? Better?
I still don't, you know, above the
Oh, up in here it's still too light.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that mask. The problem again is the software's having a hard time with the sky. If we choose the sky again, where'd our sky go? Here's our sky. For some reason, it's not getting it all. So let's subtract with a brush and see if we can, or maybe we got to add with the brush. See if we can get that in. Yeah, that's what it needed. A little bit in there.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
So, I guess my biggest question is, how do I get a better original exposure for this type of?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, if you look at your histogram, there's no whites in here. And are you guys all familiar with the theory of exposing to the right? Are you guys familiar with that? So what exposure to the right tells you is that something like this, you're going to be better off overexposing it, because there's a lot of really dark stuff in here. And look at all the room, even with the changes we've made by bringing up the exposure. You see all the room over here on the right side of the histogram? Mm-hmm. So if you had exposed so that this was going over to the edge, all of these things that were almost black would no longer be. They would be lighter, and it's much easier to bring down something than to bring up something that's almost black without a lot of noise in it. So I would say in a scene like this that is so super contrasty, make sure you're taking advantage of the whole histogram and expose to the right. It's going to look lighter in your viewfinder, because if you try to make it look right in your viewfinder, here's the original, you can see, look at all this room over here on the right side of the histogram. And because of that, all of this has gone so dark. Now, that said, if you go under detail, you have denoise, raw detail, super resolution. You get to pick one. That's it. You can only do one. So if you want the others, I would do the denoise first. Then you have to export the file as a TIFF, bring it back in, re-import it, and then you can do a super resolution on it. Now, the super resolution thing, as soon as this is done, I'll give it its 30 seconds. The super resolution thing is going to give you a really big file. How big are you going to print this? Because of the scene, I don't think this is going to hold up as a really big print. It would be nice like I'm seeing it on my screen. Let's look at the resolution of this thing. I'll hit the I key to bring it up. Okay, this is a huge file. This is almost a 40 megapixel file, even with our crop. How big a print are you going to make out of this thing? How big a print could you make out of this thing? So what I'm going to do, and we always have this argument with people about 300 DPI, which is nonsense. You need 150. That's all you need. I'm going to divide 7404 by 150. You could easily make this a 50-inch wide file print with doing nothing. Are you going to ever do that with this image?
No.
What do you think really you might do with it? 20? So there is absolutely no reason to super zoom this, to super resolution this. There's no point in it. Super resolution is great when you have something that it's maybe 2,000 pixels and you want it to be a 24-inch print. For something like this, no, don't even waste your time.
Joe, would you ever play with Viveza on this?
Viveza on this one, as I zoom in on it, honestly, I'm going to probably say no, not on this one. It's getting borderline crunchy as it is with what we've done. Viveza is just going to make it worse. If anything, I might take this into something like color effects and add maybe a pastel effect and turn it into a painting. I think something like this could potentially work well that way. All right, let's move on, because I got a lot of stuff to do here. All right, let's see. What did I have for soup? This makes no sense because I got a really cool main course for you. We might skip right to the main course after soup, and we'll see if we have time to come back to the appetizer. So let's go to soup. For soup, I have a castle for you. This is Trim Castle in Ireland. It's, about 40 minutes northwest of Dublin. And if there's any Braveheart fans out there, they did a lot of the filming for the movie when they needed castles at this castle. So I'm going to make a virtual copy of this so we can get back. And it's actually a lovely town if you ever have a chance to get here. Let's go do the basics on this first. What are the problems? Actually, before you do any of this, if you're going to use generative AI to do filling in, do it first. Because if you do it later, the colors aren't going to match. So let's go right to the point here. We're going to use the generative AI eraser tool here. And there's a couple of signs like that one. And there's a little bit of a house here. And then a couple of, some kind of utility poles. So I want to get rid of those. Everything else is okay. So let's click on remove. And that should be a fairly easy remove for the software. And as I'm looking at this, we got a great reflection in here. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3. That's really minor. Let's see. Which one do I like best? 1, 2, 3. 1 is good. We'll hit enter on 1. All right. Let's do the basics. We're done with the removing stuff. Let's bring up the shadows a bit. Let's add some texture. That looks great. I don't think we're going to need dehaze on the whole image. Dehaze will do a nice job on the reflection though. But let's bring up the vibrance and the saturation. This is Ireland. It is a very green place. And as we do that, however, the sky's gone a little weird. So let's select the sky differently. I want to bring the sky down. So let's select the sky here. Good job. And let's add a little blue to it because it seems a little cyan to my liking. And what I'm doing is looking at the clouds, and it's not cooperating because when I get the clouds neutral, the sky's still not working. So I'm going to do it a different way. Let's just hit enter on that. And we're going to go to the color mixer right down here and get the eyedropper and come up in the sky here. So let's click that, and you can see, look, this is cyan over here. Here's the purples. Here's the blue wedge, this kind of upside down triangle. We need to get this over in here to get it to the right color blue. And I'm going to bring the brightness of it down a smidge. And I think that's good. And I think we can run a dehaze on this sky as well. So let's go back to basics, get our sky, which is right there. Let's add some dehaze into this and see if that will add a little more drama to the clouds. Yeah, I think that. But now when I did that, what did it do? It ruined the blue. So we got a little tug of war going on here. So I'll hit enter on that, go back to the color mixer, get the blue, and wow, look what it did. It's so intense. Let's just bring that down. I think something about actually something like that's pretty close. All right, this shadow here, yes, it is there. It's being cast from the trees right behind me, but it's too dark. So let's get a brush with our K. Auto mask is on. Let's come in across the river and bring this shadow up. That's more realistic. There's also one little branch here, and you would think it would be easy to do with just using the standard old-fashioned, basically content aware. Let's see if that's the case. I'm going to just draw around this whole thing and not use the generative AI. And you know what? There's a little distortion here. Can you see it? Let's see if we move this out a little bit and sample from here. And it's just not working. Apparently the ripples are just too much. So let's delete that. We're going to have to use the generative AI for this as well. So let's click on that. And don't anybody tell Dale. It's Dale, you thought I forgot about you, huh? So Dale was down. Dale apparently was involved in setting the rules for their print comp. And he's really, really not a fan of AI. And then I asked him, well, Dale, how about content-aware fill? Is that okay? Yeah. I said, well, that's stealing pixels from somewhere else. So I had him over a barrel in the courtroom of generative AI. Okay, so that did a nice job. What is the problem with this image? Because as we always do when we're here, we want to make the image work better. The problem is the bottom, the river here, is too big. It's taking up pretty much exactly half the image. And the reflection is so strong, it's competing with the castle. So we're going to have to do something with that, but not here. First of all, mentioning the castle, let's get a brush. And let's select the castle because it's gone, I think, a little bit dark. I can't remember. I remember the stone being a little more neutral here. I've been to this castle a couple of times. So let's bring up, oh, I just accidentally did something. Let's bring up the exposure a little bit. Oh, Diane entered the waiting room. So, I mean, she's here, so she's in the house somewhere. All right, hold on. I'm going to have to make Diane, where'd she go? I'm going to have to make Diane the co-host. Why don't I see her name? There she is. All right, we'll make her co-host. All right, hi, honey. I made you co-host. There she is. Diane, you're live, if you can hear me. You're in the... Oh, she's walking into the room from behind me. And she's got her laptop in her hand. Hi, hun.
Hi.
Okay, so where were we? With the brush. Let's add a little bit to that. Let's bring up the exposure a bit. And let's make it less yellow. I kind of remember the stone of this castle being more neutral. And by doing that, it actually made it a little too bright. So let's add some dehaze and clarity to bring out the structure of the rock there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. The other thing is the reflection in the water is too dark. So we're going to use the gradient tool, which again is M, and drag up to, I'm going to go, remember the way this thing works. The red dot to the square will fade whatever change I make from 100 to 50%, and from here up to the end, fades from 50% to 0. So I can go over the shoreline a little bit, and it's not really going to be noticed. So let's bring up the exposure a bit. Yeah, I think something like that's better. Good. All right, so we have this lovely shot, but we've got too much river. We've got a reflection. We could just crop it. Let's see what happens if we crop. I bring up the R tool. I don't want to cut off any of the reflection, though. Is this going to work? If I do something like this, take a little off the left, a little off the right, maybe something there, and hit enter, and it still doesn't work. it's still competing too much. Let's undo that crop. I didn't want to go full screen. Let's undo that crop. Let me go back to cropping and we'll just put it back to as shot. We're going to send this thing into Photoshop because the thing I want to do to this isn't going to happen here. So let's do a Command E. Let's get out of the crop tool. Command E and send this into Photoshop. And it's taking its time. You know, Renee had mentioned that Photoshop will often. Oh, I do have Photoshop open. Photoshop often has fits with Zoom, but for some reason this is running slower than normal. Now my Photoshop is open, and this did not go. So I said, edit in Photoshop, please. And see if we can get it to come into Photoshop. I don't know what the holdup is here.
If I walk away.
Yeah, Diane's claiming that it's her fault. Wow, do you hear that little noise? Can you hear that? All right, it's trying. Don't know what this is all about, but you can see my little spinning beach ball. You know what? Lightroom crashed. Look at that. Interesting. Oh no, it didn't. It got recovered. I'm going to force quit Photoshop and let it start again. I don't know what the problem was. All right, so I just force quit Photoshop. Let's do another Command E, which it's not. There we go. All right, Command E. So it's going to have to restart Photoshop. Almost makes you want to get a Windows machine, doesn't it? Nah. Nothing ever makes me want to get a Windows machine. Okay, here's Photoshop opening. And give us our castle, please. All right, there's our castle. All right. You know, as I'm looking at this thing seems to have taken on a color cast down here as well. So before we do anything else, let's go to the little half white, half black circle and do a color balance adjustment on this image. And the problem to me is down here. So I'm just going to drag this down and let's see, red, no, red, so yeah, I need some red. Magenta, no, that one's fine. Yellow, definitely not. Blue, yes, that's what it needed. And then we'll do the same thing for midtones. Needed a little bit of red. Magenta, nope, that one's, magenta green is pretty much fine. Yellow, blue again. And then lastly, shadows. Magenta, now that needs a little cyan. Oh, that needed magenta. And then yellow, blue, need a little blue. Okay. However, we don't want it up here. We just want it to, if we look at the difference before and after, we just want it in the reflection. So we're going to click on the mask that automatically gets created with every adjustment layer and do a gradient. And the keyboard shortcut for that is G. So if we hit G, the gradients show up on top. If you haven't used these before, go to Classic Gradients, click on here under Basics if you don't have this. And this is black to white, black to transparent, and then foreground to background. We want this one, the black to transparent. And you can drag it at an angle. I'm going to come down through here and do the gradient about like that. And if you Alt-click on the mask, you see that's what I just did to keep that out. And as I look at this now by itself, it's a little too strong. So we can just bring it down a little bit. All right, so we're fine, but we're going to create a stack. I'm going to flatten these two images, but still keep them the layers. Hold down the Alt key, merge visible. So now we have a layer that is all of this. And what I was after was, I love this reflection, but it's too big. So let's get the M key, which is the marquee, and take the entire bottom half of the image. Now, normally I would do content aware scale here, but actually for this subject, it's really not necessary. We're just going to use free transform, which is under edit, or you see Command or Control T. Hold down the Shift key to keep it going in one direction. And I'm going to squish this thing so that our reflection gets shorter as compared to the castle itself. Now, how could I have had this happen by itself while I was here? If I had laid down on the grass, this is what would have happened. I wasn't willing to lay down on the grass. That's what Command T is for. So if I hide the other layers, you can see here's our image now. And doesn't that reflection look much nicer because it is not bigger than the castle, or the same size as the castle itself? Since this is all I need, I can Command or Control click on the thumbnail. That selects everything on the layer, and then you just come up to Image, Crop. And there we go. And let's send this back into Lightroom. So just Command S. And it's saving it. And as soon as that's done, we can tab back over to Lightroom. Okay, it's done. We go back to Lightroom, and it will give us our newly squished image. Before we do anything else, let's see what effect the vignette's going to have on the whole image. And I'm not sure where the vignette is on this right now. Let's see. Let's bring the midpoint in, but make it a little more square. Maybe something like that. And then back off the amount to 12 or so. And as I look at this, what are my complaints? I still hate the sky color. It's just too much. So let's just bring down the saturation of it. This is Ireland. They don't typically have the giant blue skies that we have. And I'm going to crop this crop the entire image more, because the riverbed over here is still a little bit too strong. There's too much water underneath the rest of the scene. You would think this is going to be a reflective shot with the horizon in the middle. I'm going to say no. So I'm going to bring this in from the right a little bit and from the left and hit enter. A question.
Yes. Are the whites blown out on the building on the left?
Okay, so somebody asked, are the whites blown out on the building on the left? They may look so on your screen. I don't know if you have a calibrated monitor. But actually, if you look at the numbers underneath the histogram, as I bring the cursor over top of these whites, they're hitting the 90s. That is a little high. They're nowhere near blown out. But I feel your pain here. Let's bring the whites down a little bit. We'll take some of the heat off of the whites and the highlights. I don't disagree. Before we finish, this is an image that is screaming for Viveza. So we're going to go to Edit in Viveza. Again, if you don't have this, get it. All the Nik filters. You get a group of about 8 different filters. So let's bring this into Viveza. I think Viveza is going to do wonders for this. And I think the whole image, I think, needs a little bit of warmth as well. So where's Viveza? Where are you? How come it's not showing up? No, it says it's firing up. Let's just give it a second. I'm waiting. As usual, we're going to end up going a little bit late. Can you guys hang out a little bit extra? All right, because I got to show you the main course, and I got to get to Bob's image too to see if we can do something with that. Plus, I have a nice dessert for you, and I don't know why Viveza's not cooperating. So I'm going to quit it and try it again, one more time.
Should I leave again?
Diane has this something with electromagnetic disturbances that she does seem to bring with her. So let's try that one more time. Preparing file for editing. Okay, we'll be patient. Give it a. Oh, I saw it flick by. Come on, you can do it. We'll wait. We'll wait a second. And my hard drive's still spinning. It's trying to get there. Yeah, I don't know if Zoom's giving us a hard time tonight. Well, while that's doing that, I still hear the drives going. Let's jump over to... It's still trying. All right, tell me what you're going to do. We're going to bring up Bob's image, which was this one, I believe. Oh, no, that's not the RAW. Where's the RAW file? Oh, here it is. Okay, Bob, this is your image, right? And Bob has he's got this a problem here with reflections from a canopy, and I actually have another solution. Bob, I have another. Did you shoot this with your camera or your phone? Bob, Robert. Oh, you're muted. Just hit the space bar. You can unmute yourself. I guess he can't.
Maybe he's sleeping.
No, he's looking at the screen.
There
Okay.
I am.
Okay. Phone or camera? Or camera.
Nikon
Okay.
D8.
Okay. You need a hood for your camera. Let's take a look.
I don't think so, Joe. It was not incidental light per se, coming in from the side. It's the curvature of the
The canopy?
the canopy.
Yeah. Maybe using the software is not the answer. You know what, Bob? Let me think about this one. I think this is gonna take a little thought.
Do I get a prize for stumping you?
Yeah. What I will do, I'll tell you what I'll do for you, and I'll even share it with everybody if you'd like. I'm going to take a look at this and take a look to see what other options there might be for doing it. I will record a video that does it step by step. Is that fair?
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. I got to get to the main course because you would think this is the main course. Yes, it is. I was going through my computer and looking at older images that had a rating of 0. And this was one of them. And I thought, all right, what can we do with this to make it interesting? So, virtual copy. The whole lighthouse seems slightly skewed. Let's see if crop will help straighten out the lighthouse a bit. So, all right, I've got the lightning rod straight, but the lighthouse still isn't straight. So we're going to have to bring it into Photoshop. But let's go through the basics. Let's bring up the shadows, and we'll bring down the highlights, and we'll add some texture clarity. No dehaze. We'll add it's a little bit of vibrance, but we need some saturation to bring the reds back, and it's still not bringing it back. In fact, I think the greens are too strong. So we're going to have to use our friend, the color mixer again. Let's go get the red, and we're going to bring it up to make, this is Nobska Light, by the way, and this is the Cape Cod potato chip bag lighthouse. Let's do that. Let's bring these greens down. Yes, they get very green in the rain, and you can see from the green down here they're a little yellow. They're getting very close to the yellow side. So let's make them a little bit greener, but let's bring the saturation down. That looks better. Also, the black up here, let's use a brush for this. Yes, it's raining out. I get that. But let's make that a little bit darker. Let's make it so that, because especially what we're going to do to it, I want that to stand out. All right, so, I mean, is it an award-winning photograph here? No, not yet. But hold on. Command E, let's send this one into Photoshop, hopefully. By the way, notice that our other image... Oh, I was just going to say, notice our other image never made it into Viveza. And just before I said that, look what happened. Viveza finally caught up. All right, so I'm going to move the halfway slider here. Let's add some structure. Oh, look at that. Look what the structure does in Viveza. It's just so much better than any of the Photoshop sliders. Saturation actually is fine, but the warmth is off. I think it's a little too cool. So let's take the warmth slider over a little bit and add a little yellow, a little warmth into that. And oh yeah. And look at the before and after as I drag the slider over. See how much life it just got warmer? Don't you feel like you could take off a sweater after seeing that happen? Look at that. That is beautiful. Okay. So we'll hit apply on that, and Viveza makes a new TIFF file. If we go back into, I'll show it to you later. Let's keep doing what we're doing here in Photoshop. Okay, so here's our image. As I mentioned, the lighthouse is still skewed a little bit. What we're doing with it, not going to be a big deal, but I can't let it go. So with the L key, we're going to use a lasso, and I'm going to draw a picture around this entire thing, or draw a line around it, and we're going to copy paste. So I copy paste, and on that layer I have just this. Let's see, let's get some rulers so I can see what's going on. So I hit Command R. Let's get a vertical. We'll put it right through the middle of the lighthouse. And you can see it's not straight. If I go right through the middle of the tower, you can see this thing isn't straight. The question is, how violent do we need to get with it? Let's try Command T. Let's just to see if a simple transform will do it. And in order to get the most out of this, you have to hold down the Command key or Control right click on a Windows machine to get just one of these dots, one of the corners to move. And just doing that, let's see, do we need to bring this side up a little bit? Nope. Actually, we need to go out that way, because Nopska is a little bit of a slightly stubby lighthouse. And then let's bring up the top. And let's hit enter on that and hide the guides. We'll just clear them. We don't need that anymore. And let's look at the before and after. Yeah, that fixed the lighthouse, but it caused some breakage over in here. So here's what you do. Isolate the pasted on piece. Add a mask right here, down the little rectangle with the circle in it. Get a brush, which is B. We're going to make the brush smaller, something like that. And we're going to work at about, let's say 50%. So I'm going to hit 5 and paint with black. We are now on the mask so that this can just fade. The bottom probably didn't move. Let's just get the sides, although not much is really going on in the sky. So let's try that. And now let's turn the background on and turn this on and off. And take a look to see if there's any places giving you trouble. And there are actually down in here. So let's just cut to the chase and hit 0 to give us 100% and paint in this area. And you can turn it on and off and see where's the trouble. Yeah, let's right there. Yes, I already know. I know part of this is out of focus, but I don't want to make it be out of focus and split. And I think right in here as well. There we go. Up right in here. So now if you alt click on here, you can see that's what we just did. It's some kind of odd duck or something. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay. We're good. And you think, we're good? Yeah, we're good. Because I'm going to go get something else. Let's go back over into Lightroom. And while I was out here, I was photographing some textures on some of the outbuildings. And that's where this is from. So I have this. I'm going to Command E this to send it into Photoshop. So here we are in Photoshop. I don't need the rulers anymore. But I'm going to do a Select All on this. Select All, Command A, and copy this. Now let's go back over to here. I need to copy my background. Whoops. I need to copy my background to a Command J. And I'm going to hit Command V to paste, which is that. I'm going to put it up here for a second and hide it, because what I need to do is flatten these two. So I'm going to take that's the fixed lighthouse. Let's flatten that. And now let's bring this underneath the lighthouse. Nope. Let's do it this way. Let's leave it there. Let's change the blending mode from normal to darken. And look what happened. The lighthouse is now starting to show through. And while we're in here, we can change. Let me change this. I want to bring this up a little bit. I don't want that one dark piece there. And this is the kind of thing you can just move around. And yeah, I want some of that brown coming into the lighthouse. And if I want some more of the lighthouse to show up in here, what I need to do is create a mask on this texture layer. Hit B. And we're going to work at just like 20%. And I'm going to give myself a little bigger brush. and start painting with B, and notice the lighthouse starts showing through a little bit more. And maybe I don't want this green thing to be as green as it is, but I just wanted to show you what happens if you change it to darken, or let's see what overlay does, which is going to be a different kind of effect, and we'd have to bring down. Overlay is an adjustment to contrast. So we could even flip it around. Ooh, let's try something. Let's put it back to darken, which is where I wanted it from the beginning. Let's make another copy. I'm going to Command J this and put it underneath. And let's change this to overlay and see what happens. That's kind of interesting. I don't know that I like it, but it's kind of interesting. Let's bring the opacity of this one down. And makes for kind of an interesting kind of look. So we started out with this thing, and we ended up with something that's kind of decorative. You might not like parts of it, and that's okay. In fact, while we're here, gee, who thinks that this one particular branch is a little too much? You raise your hand? Okay. Well, this is still on a layer. So let's select it. We got this layer chosen. And let's hit generative fill and generate and see what the software comes up with. Because it was just solid sky behind it, let's see if it will choose to actually get rid of it. And since the sky has disappeared, you know, I bet we could possibly even just delete the thing. But let's see if generative fill gives us the answer. Oh, actually it's pretty good. So we go 1, 2, 3. I think 2 works. Yeah. So what do you think? Was that kind of interesting for kind of playing decoratively? And then we're not done. We can send this thing back into Lightroom and do Lightroom stuff to it. But we took this and with a bit of found texture, created that. So let's save this. We hit Command S and send it back into Lightroom and take a look. But I love how with the dark pieces of wood, and by the way the whole darken blending mode works is it's going to take the source material, which in this case is just the texture, and anything on the layer below, it's going to darken it. If it's brighter, it will leave it alone. There's another PSB file. Why am I generating all these huge files today? Fine, we'll just save it. Question. Can I make it full screen? Yeah, let me, yeah. Let me bring it into, oh, I can do it here, I guess. As soon as it's done saving its huge file. Come on. See, this is the problem with those of you that have 40 and 60 megapixel cameras. This was shot on this is a Sony shot. So this was started out as a 42 megapixel file. When you start adding all these layers in, this is the kind of stuff that starts happening. You start ending up with files that are over 2 gigs a piece, which is why when I was with Sony and they asked me if I wanted the new 60 megapixel camera, I said, no, I don't need it. Wow, this is really, all right, let me jump over to Lightroom because I have one I did earlier so you can see it. Of course, now Lightroom's going to give me a hard time because it's still trying to save that other giant one in. So this is one that I had done earlier, but just so you can see. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yes, no? Anybody? Yeah? Thumbs up? Diane gave me a thumbs up. Okay. Oh, now the Photoshop one finally showed up full screen on my other screen. It's actually not a whole lot different than this one. So anyway. And I could do the vignette and the light painting thing like that. But it was really, I wanted to show you that if you have something that's kind of an interesting subject, that you can simply take a texture, put it over top of it, and change the blending mode, usually either to darken or overlay. And it will make some interesting effects for you. It's already 8:37. Let's do some dessert. And let's go to nice things. Let's go nice. And we're going to do a portrait. We don't do that much stuff with portraits. And Diane just said, Cadence. And Diane was on. You were on this shoot, weren't you? Okay. This is an interesting shot technically. I just want to show you the stuff on here. This is 1/8000th of a second at f1.4 with a flash. And this was actually a video I had done some years ago to show you can do really high-speed flash sync with certain equipment. That's what we were doing here. 8,000th of a second, 85 millimeter. This is on a Sony again. If we hit both, so you can see, here's the actual file. Okay, so let's do a portrait thing. What do we want to do here for Cadence? And let's go to the basic panel, and I'm going to bring up the exposure a little bit. And by the way, Cadence is generally a happy person. She's actually a singer, actor. She's done a bunch of plays, and she's done a little bit of TV as well. And she doesn't usually look like this. Usually the look that she would give me was something more like that. So you guys that have been around me understand why this look I was getting. But what I really wanted to do was, where are the issues? And what do we want to bring out? First, I want to deal with the eyes, because she's got these green eyes, but they're just not showing up well enough. So let's get a brush, the K key. Let's make this a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to draw around the eye. Doesn't matter if I get the iris or not. So let's get this in here too. Oh, that was a little sloppy. Let's hold down the Alt to get out of there. All right, so let's bring up the exposure just to open them up. But not, you don't want to go too much. You're going to get weird. Just a little bit. I'm going to bring up the shadows. There we go. And I'm going to add a little bit of texture in here. There we go. That looks a lot better. And so as long as we're at it, let's add a little bit of saturation. You can see it before and after. Okay, right there. That's the first part. Second part, the highlight, the catch light. Let's make our brush just about the size of that. I'm going to put it in the two catch lights. Let's bring those up. Bring up the exposure of the catch light. They can go white. That's okay. Now, she doesn't really have any problems in her... Yes? Weird black spot. Where do you see a black spot?
Oh,
That was just the Diane was asking what the black spot was. That was just Lightroom show us where the mask was. While we're here, let's back off a little bit. And you can see our before and after, what we just did. That's the catch lights. That's the actual eyes. Look at the difference. And if we think maybe it was a bit too much, we can always click on it and maybe bring down the exposure just a smidge. That looks good. All right, now another thing. Skin. Now, she's got great skin, but you ladies always like having your skin smoother, don't you? So let's get K again, and we're going to do a face mask. So let's just get all the skin. I got a little hair there. That's okay. We'll get rid of that. I want the lips too. I want in here. Let's hit Alt to get rid of the part in her hair. And I don't want it affecting her eyes. So let's get rid of that as well. And let's put it back here. Okay. What was I after here? Texture. And from what I was told by people at Adobe, the texture slider was actually designed for smoothing skin. So I'm going to bring it down about 20, 30 points. And let's zoom in a little bit so you can see what just happened. You can see it a little bit on the forehead. Let's go ahead and hide that mask. And you can see the before and after. You see how it's just a slight bit of smoothing? Question.
Linda is wondering why you aren't using the people selection tool.
I like doing, so the question was, why am I not using the, when you said people selection tool, did you mean pupil? Or actually people?
She said people.
No, I just want her face.
Because then you can select the facial skin and you can select.
Yeah, you can. I don't like doing it that way. So if you like it that way, go ahead. I like, as I'm doing the thought process, to go through each section by myself and maintain that control. It's just a different way of selecting. I find that works. If you like the other way, then have at it. Absolutely. What else did I want to do here? What else are the distractions? Underneath her eyes are a little dark. So let's hit K again and bring that down. So I'm just going to get underneath here. We're just going to bring up the shadows, I think, here. Let's bring up the shadows. Yeah, the shadows will do it. There's also an odd reflection right here. I don't know what that is. Probably just, I don't know, some light shining off of something. So let's bring the highlights down on that one to get that smoothed back in. All right. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to do a radial gradient, Shift M, and do what's called the entire face mask. And I'm going to do that and angle it to her face and just bring up the exposure a smidge. There we go. Now, the last thing, our two last things are problem. One is the color of her clothing is a little light. So let's get a brush and let's select that. And I'm going to come right up to the edge because it's okay if I get the background there. The same thing here because I want this to go a little darker. And let's bring down the exposure, the highlights, and that was too much. And bring down the whites a little. I just want to take a little of the brightness off of it. Hit enter on there, and let's put a vignette. And there we go. And let's see what our journey has been here. I'm going to go right back to the original. There's the original raw file. And there's our edit. And it just adds so much life to the portrait. And if you want to see what she's been up to, you can actually Google search Cadence Frank, is her last name, New York City, NYC, and there's an Instagram page that has all of her latest commercials and play stuff that she's been doing. Lovely girl. She's a great singer too. All right, 8:45. Do we have time for one more? You guys up for one more? I'm going to go take you back at, let's see, I'm going to give you a choice. I'm going to show you the images. Do you want to do this one, which I promise you would be interesting? Or do you want another bit of Castle-y stuff? So type it in the chat. We'll see which wins. Number one, okay, 111 Canyon, 1. It's universal. Everybody wants this one. That's fine. I agree with you. Although the castle one's actually pretty cool too. All right, so a virtual copy of this. This is a detail shot of Bryce Canyon. And while it's interesting, it's lacking visual focus. We need to decide what we want the viewer to look at and take them there. First of all, if you've been to Bryce Canyon, it's a much brighter place than this. So I'm just going to cut to the chase and add some saturation and some vibrance. Okay, that helps a little bit. But more, where do I want you to look? This part is different. I think I want you to go there. So this stuff over here is a distraction. Let's get a brush. And we're on auto mask, and I want to take all of this stuff. I'm going to come all the way down to there, here, and here. Maybe even up into here. For now, we might change our minds. Come up in there as well. And we're going to darken this. Let's bring the exposure down. Okay, that's better. We're going to darken the shadows a little bit too. All right, that's good. That's maybe not even enough. Let's hit K again. I want to darken up this thing right in there. So I'm just clicking. And this thing right there is a little too bright. So let's just darken those up. There we go. Conversely, back here, this should be more orange. Let's hit K on this, and let's select some of the hoodoos hiding back here, and let's make them more yellow. Oh, that's what it looks like. But we're actually taken away from the focal point, so how can we fix that? Let's hit K again. I'm also going to bring these down, these sections. Let's bring them down a little bit as well. I want eyes to go to where I want them to go, and that's going to be in here. So now let's use a K to select this, and let's select this area, and I want all these highlights too. So I'm going to, since auto mask is on, it's missing some of the little pieces, got to make sure I get them, and then I'll hold down Alt to come along the edges in places where I don't want it to go. So back into the hoodoos here that are much more orange than this particular piece. Whoops. Oh, I undid the whole thing. Let's back off. All right. And we put that back in. And one little piece there. Okay. This needs some dehaze. Let's bring dehaze into this and some clarity. Oh, now we're getting all the little textures out. It needs to be a little bit more yellow. No, actually it doesn't. It needs to be a little more blue. Green, magenta. It needs a little green too. Who would have thought? And then saturation. I think I want this thing even a little more yellow. Let's click on the color box down here and select yellow. Yes, that's too much. Let's just back off on the saturation. Maybe about there. That's good. And now let's increase the brightness, increase the exposure. And there it is. That's what I wanted. That's how I remember this thing. Now, cropping wise, where are the distractions? Before we figure that out, let's first add a vignette, because it's going to need it. It's going to need a vignette. And I think I want this vignette to hug the edges a little more. So I'm going to back off on the midpoint, just something like that. And then back off on my vignette. Now, this stuff up top, maybe still a little bit too strong, but I hate cropping it off. What can we do to make that less intense and not lose it? Let's see if transform and we change the aspect ratio will help us. What happens if we flatten this thing a little bit? I think that might be the answer. So I'm just going to hit constrain crop on that. Oh, that did help. And now as I'm looking at it, this area right here, this is still too bright. Let's hit K to get our brush. And I'm thinking this area through here is still too bright for the image. And here a little bit less, but I still want to keep working here. So I'm going to back off on the flow to about 70% or so. And then add. And notice it just adds to that a little bit. That's it. And you know, I think we might have it. Let's hit the crop tool. What happens if we come up a little bit from the bottom? And do we need all of this stuff over on the right? And let's bring this back and a little less of this. And hit enter. And as I look at my vignette, I think I might want it to come in a little bit more. So I'm going to back off on the midpoint. And I think that's pretty good. And again, let's take a look to see where we start. All right, let's look. Here's our edit compared to where we started. Notice how now there's so much more, not only pop to the image, but it's drawing you to the thing that we wanted your eyes to go to. This light and color painting, and even did a little bit of a perspective change by using the transform aspect ratio tool to make this come in. Now, somebody's got to be being driven nuts by this thing right here. I know you people. Somebody's being driven nuts, so I can't leave you hanging like that. Yep, I got a bunch of yups coming through here. So let's make this a little bigger, and we'll get rid of that. And I was going to use the regular just Band-Aid tool, but since Dale's here, I'm going to use the generative AI tool because I think it'll do a little better job of this. Dale had to put up with me all weekend giving him a hard time. 1, 2, 3, and none of them look any different, so that's fine. Okay, I think that's our winner. Does that make you guys happier? That those little things are gone? So there's our before. There's our after. And that's kind of interesting. And if you've ever been to Bryce Canyon, it's a cool place. Oh, while we're here now, is this something that would need denoise? What do you think? No, there's no reason to denoise this. This is all sandstone. The stuff is grainy by definition. However, maybe I would want to up-res this. Let's see after we've cropped. What was this shot with? This is a Sony shot, 24 megapixels. What camera? Oh, this is with a 6300. Okay, this is my little compact camera. Maybe I would want to res this up because I want a big print of it. So let's go into detail. Do we need sharpening? I don't think so. Let's look at it at 100%. That's pretty sharp. I don't think adding sharpening to this is really going to bring anything. It's got great detail in it. But let's take a look at super resolution. And I have tested it, by the way, and super resolution in Lightroom seems to do a better job than the super res in Photoshop. So now our file, let's hit I again as soon as it's done beach balling me. Look at that. Now we have a 70 megapixel image. That's pretty crazy. Actually, an 80 megapixel image. Just by doing that, turning that on and off. There we went from, look at that, from 20 megapixel to 80 megapixel, which is crazy. So now if we look at this thing at 100%, take a look and see how much zoom there is. And look at that, the resolution, the crispness of it still held up. And I found that when you use the neural filter in Photoshop, it's not this clean. So if you want to do super resing, do it here in Lightroom, not in Photoshop, because it's pretty spectacular. Let's go full screen on that. In fact, heck, it makes me want to zoom in a little bit. Let's do an intermediate zoom rather than 100%, 50%. Yeah, 50%. No, not even. Let's do 30%. Yes, question.
Was it handheld?
Was this handheld? Yes. I have never put a 63, if you guys know the 6300, that's the little APS-C compact camera from Sony. I've never put that on a tripod. So this was a handheld shot. And that is super crisp. What was the shutter speed? Yeah, 100th of a second at f9. ISO 100. So it is an impressive camera. There's nothing bad to say about the 6300, the whole 6000 series from Sony. They're great cameras.
Would you only use super resolution if you want to print a large image?
Yes. Linda asked, would I only use super res if I wanted to print a really large image? Yes, but again, the whole printing thing. How big a print could I make out of this particular image? Well, let's see. Am I ever going to make it this big? Get my calculator out. 10,971 divided by 150. I could make a 73-inch print out of this. Would I? I don't know. Probably not. Even if I turn the super res off, there's plenty of resolution on this image. So 5485. I'll divide that by 150. It's still going to give me a 36-inch print. So unless I was going to make a larger than 36-inch print, would I? No. Here's a however. And it's the same argument that some people have used for getting 60 megapixel cameras. Oh, but if I do that, I can crop a little piece of the image and still get a big print. Some truth to that. So all right, now we have our 10,000 pixel image. Let's get rid of the text here. And I'm going to take a small piece of this. Let's crop this one. This is a super res. Let's just turn. We got free cropping here. Let's say I wanted this to be a vertical, and I decided I'm bored with the right side of the image. Maybe I just want this right in like there. There. That's what I want my image to be. That made the image really boring, but I'm just, for argument's sake, let's see, that's what I wanted. And if I hit the resolution button, look at this. I've still got 36 megapixels. So I could still make a huge print out of this. And again, the print size, take the bigger number, 7,600, divide it by 150. And it's still almost a 51-inch print. So even cropped down that much. So let's go crazy. We're going to be merciless in our cropping. I'm going to say, all right, I want the image to be this. Actually, that's kind of cool. Let's see. Actually, you know what? I hate to say it. I kind of like that right there. That's kind of a cool image. Let's go look at full screen on that. That's kind of interesting. I don't really like this side that much, but it's kind of interesting. And again, the super res is still giving us 9x4. I mean, still enough for a huge image, the 9600. So when I crop way down, would I use it? Yeah, if I found I needed it. It all depends on how big a print. You need to be wanting to make a really big print to ever have to use super res, because your cameras have so many megapixels. And I don't know how many of you guys routinely make prints that are bigger than 16 by 20 or something around there. If you're doing 2030s, 24 by 36s, a 2030, by the way, you only need 20 megapixels. So if you hear people say you need 300, they don't. You're wrong. They don't. You don't need it. 100. If you want to be safe, go to 180 dots per inch. But do you ever need anything above that? The answer is no. So any other questions? No? No other questions? Bob, every time I look over at you in our little Hollywood Squares thing and I see that very strange shot of me, it's very disturbing. In fact, it's more
feeling that's a cowboy.
it's even more disturbing than the giant critter behind Alan, that microscope shot of some alien creature there. Anyway, any more questions? I'm not seeing any more. You guys can unmute yourself at this point if you like. In fact, I can unmute you all actually. Let's see. I'm going to unmute you all. So no other questions? No. Well then. Oh, I unmuted Diane, and now. All right. I just muted everybody again. You can unmute yourselves if you want individually. All right. Well, in that case, I will say good night, except for you know who. You know who you are, because we have a little appointment to do something else. So yeah, that was a little bit different. Some of the stuff we did. We're going to go a little bit different next time, which is in 2 weeks. And we're going to explore a little bit of black and white conversions. That is something I've been wanting to do for a while. And to see which images are going to work as black and whites and which ones don't, and what you can do with them. And we will do the black and whites in Lightroom, in Photoshop, and with Nik Silver Effects. So I'll show you 3 different ways to do it and where you might choose one over the other and why. And that will be next week, or a week after next. So until then, I will say goodnight to you all, and thank you for joining me. So the next, wait, I do have a next episode slide. Here we go. So again, I'll say goodnight to everybody, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining me.
Good. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.